Hello and welcome back to another Parry This History video. Today we are continuing our Kings of England series with an exploration of another of the more famous Anglo-Saxon kings of England, this time, Edward the Martyr. This is the 8th video in this series, so if you're interested and haven't yet seen the earlier videos, I will have a playlist linked in the description that I recommend checking out. But now let's dive on into this topic. King Edward the Martyr, a figure from early medieval England, remains a compelling subject of historical study due to the intrigue surrounding his life, reign, and tragic death. Born around the year 962, Edward ascended to the English throne in 975, inheriting a kingdom marked by internal strife and external challenges. Despite a reign cut short, Edward's impact on the course of English history is undeniable. This paper delves into the life and times of King Edward the Martyr, shedding light on his early upbringing, ascent to power, governance, and the circumstances that led to his martyrdom. It examines his legacy, which extends beyond his untimely death, making him a revered figure in religious history. Edward's story unfolds against a backdrop of familial disputes, shifting loyalties, and a deeply divided kingdom. The complexity of his life narrative is mirrored in the contrasting accounts of his character and reign provided by historical sources. In exploring his life, this paper seeks to untangle the web of historical events that defined Edward's era and his place within it. By examining the circumstances of his martyrdom and the subsequent veneration that led to his sainthood, we aim to gain a deeper understanding of the man behind the title, Edward the Martyr. This study adheres to a rigorous scholarly approach, drawing exclusively from historical sources to provide an accurate and comprehensive account of Edward's life and legacy. Through a systematic exploration of the key periods and events in Edward's life, we aim to offer valuable insights into the historical significance of this enigmatic figure and his enduring influence. Section 1. Early Life and Family. The early life of King Edward the Martyr is characterized by the intricate web of English royal lineage. Born circa 962, Edward was the firstborn son of King Edgar the Peaceful and his wife Ethelfled. Despite his status as the eldest son, Edward's path to the throne was marked by familial complexities. King Edgar, his father, had remarried twice, ultimately settling into a marriage with Queen Elfrith, who bore him another son, Ethelred, later to be known as the Unready. This complex family dynamic set the stage for future power struggles. The pivotal moment in Edward's life came with the death of King Edgar in 975, when Edward was a mere 13 years old. This event triggered a dispute over the rightful heir to the English throne. Edward's legitimacy as the heir was challenged, and his younger brother Ethelred emerged as a competing claimant. Ethelred was, however, only a child of 6 or 7 years old when his father passed away, making Edward the far more practical choice for succession. Nonetheless, both brothers' bids for power were heavily influenced by court factions, as well as the ambitions of Ethelred's mother, Queen Elfrith. Despite these challenges, Edward ultimately emerged as the chosen successor to the throne. His coronation, facilitated by Archbishop Dunstan of Canterbury, marked the beginning of a reign that would be defined by the intricate dynamics of English politics. However, historical accounts of Edward's character during this early period are notably contradictory. Berthforth, a priest and monk based at Ramsey Abbey, depicted the young king as having a bad temper, creating an atmosphere of fear among those around him. In contrast, Osborne of Canterbury, a Benedictine monk, offered a more favorable portrayal of Edward, highlighting the respect he garnered from those in his inner circle. Section 2. Ascendancy and Early Reign. Edward's ascension to the English throne in 975 marked a critical turning point in the nation's history. Despite the challenges to his legitimacy, he eventually emerged as the chosen monarch, supported by influential figures and key advisors who played pivotal roles during this early reign. The path to Edward's coronation was fraught with tension and dispute. Following King Edgar's demise, factions within the English court vied for power and influence. While Edward's legitimacy as the heir was clear, his half-brother Ethelred, a child of tender age, presented an alternative claim, championed by his mother, Queen Elfrith. This dispute cast a shadow over the succession and heightened the uncertainty surrounding Edward's rise to power. Crucially, Edward found staunch support from influential figures within the English Church. Archbishop Dunstan of Canterbury played a vital role in securing Edward's ascent to the throne. His clerical support base, which included Oswald of Worcester, the Archbishop of York, further bolstered Edward's claim to kingship. These church figures not only played a key role in Edward's coronation, but also contributed to shaping his early reign. Edward's character and leadership abilities remain a subject of historical debate. Accounts from prominent figures of the time offer contrasting perspectives. Berthforth, a priest and monk at Ramsey Abbey, painted Edward as a ruler with a volatile temper, which created a climate of fear among those around him. In contrast, Osborne of Canterbury, a Benedictine monk, portrayed Edward in a more favorable light, suggesting that he was highly regarded by those in his inner circle. These differing characterizations add complexity to the understanding of Edward's early reign. Section 3. Late Reign and Accomplishments. As Edward's reign progressed, it became increasingly evident that his rule would be marked by challenges, political turmoil, and a struggle for control over the English throne. While his early years as king were characterized by disputes and uncertainties, the later phase of his rule witnessed significant developments, policies, and events that left a lasting impact on the kingdom. Edward's ascension to the throne in 975 occurred amidst a power struggle within the English court. The so-called anti-monastic reaction unfolded during his reign, driven by secular landowners seeking to reclaim power and wealth that had been ceded to the church by Edward's father, King Edgar. Edgar had significantly increased the church's land ownership and power, which had incited the anger of secular nobility who wanted that land and power for themselves. The nobility, led by figures such as Ælfhere and Ethelwine, seized the opportunity presented by Edward's perceived weak leadership. Edward struggled to maintain control as attacks on monasteries and church properties escalated. The conflict also had regional dimensions, with opposition to southern rule exacerbating the situation, particularly in the north of England. Edward's policies during his late reign were characterized by efforts to address the challenges posed by the anti-monastic movement, and the nobility's resistance to ecclesiastical influence. One notable aspect of his rule was his response to the coinage system in England. He initiated coinage reform, which had implications for the economy and a centralization of power. The coinage reform under Edward aimed to establish a standardized currency system, enhancing the king's control over the economy. This reform involved the production of new coinage, which featured the king's image and carried the weight of royal authority. By controlling the minting of coins, Edward asserted his sovereignty and sought to stabilize the monetary system. Despite these policy efforts, Edward's leadership remained challenged, and the anti-monastic movement continued to gain momentum. His inability to effectively manage these challenges marred his time in power and set the stage for the tragic events that would unfold in March of 978. Section 4. The Death and Legacy of Edward the Martyr. The tragic and mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of King Edward the Martyr on March 18, 978, have left an indelible mark on his legacy. Edward's assassination marked a turning point in English history, with far-reaching consequences for the monarchy and the perception of his reign. Edward's visit to Corfe Castle, where his stepmother, Queen Ælfthryth, and his younger brother, Ethelred, resided, would prove to be his fateful decision. As he arrived at the castle, he dismounted his horse, and in a seemingly ordinary gesture of hospitality, Queen Ælfthryth offered him a glass of mead. It was during this moment that a dark and treacherous deed was committed. Edward, still partially mounted on his horse, was mercilessly stabbed in the back, a sudden and brutal end to his life. His lifeless body remained on the horse, which bolted into the darkness of the night, dragging him along the ground. The exact sequence of events that night remains shrouded in secrecy and clandestine reports. However, what is undeniable is that a shocking act of murder and treachery took place, orchestrated by those who sought power and control over the English throne. The primary suspects in Edward's assassination included his stepmother, Queen Ælfthryth, and her supporters, as well as figures like Ælfhere, a prominent leader in the anti-monastic movement. The motives behind the murder were deeply rooted in the power struggles and political machinations of the time. The murder of Edward the Martyr led to a significant shift in the English monarchy and the legacy of the young king. With Edward's death, his younger brother Ethelred, who was only 10 years old at the time, ascended to the throne. Edward's untimely demise marked a critical juncture in the ongoing disputes over the English crown. One remarkable aspect of the aftermath of Edward's murder is the story of the blind woman whose hut his body was hidden in after being recovered. As Edward's lifeless body was hidden in this humble dwelling, a miraculous event unfolded. During the night, an awe-inspiring light filled the entire hut. Struck with amazement, the blind woman who lived there cried out for divine mercy, and in an instant her sight was miraculously restored. In this newfound vision, she discovered the lifeless body of King Edward who had been hidden there. This miraculous event left a profound impact on those who witnessed it. To commemorate this divine revelation, the Church of St. Edward was established at the site near Corfe Castle where this hut stood. The miracle became a testament to Edward's sanctity and righteousness, paving the way for his veneration as a martyr and a saint. Edward the Martyr's journey towards sainthood continued with the discovery of his miraculously intact remains. These relics were eventually translated to the Abbey of Shaftesbury, an event marked by profound piety and reverence. On February 13th, 981, the relics arrived at Shaftesbury Abbey, where they were received by the nuns with full royal honors and placed on the north side of the altar. In 1001, during the reign of King Ethelred, the tomb of St. Edward was observed to regularly rise from the ground. As the tomb was opened, a captivating fragrance would be known to fill the air, leaving those present with a sense of standing in a heavenly realm. The bishops carefully transferred the sacred relics from the tomb and placed them alongside other holy relics in the sanctuary of the saints. This elevation of Edward's relics occurred on June 20th, 1001, further solidifying his status as a revered saint and martyr. In recognition of his sanctity and the miracles associated with his relics, King Ethelred and the All-English Council of 1008 officially glorified Edward the Martyr. His feast days on March 18th, February 13th, commemorating the uncovering of his relics, and June 20th, commemorating the elevation of his relics, became significant occasions for celebration and veneration throughout all of England. Edward the Martyr's remains, which were hidden to protect them during the tumultuous period of the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century, were rediscovered in 1931. These sacred relics were later donated to the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, and now rest in the St. Edward the Martyr Orthodox Church in Brookwood Cemetery, Surrey. In conclusion, King Edward the Martyr's life and reign offer a compelling glimpse into the political and religious complexities of 10th century England. His ascent to the throne amid family disputes and the challenges he faced during his rule underscore the turbulent nature of the era. Edward's legacy as a martyr and saint serves as a testament to the enduring power of faith and the profound impact of his untimely death. His veneration, marked by miraculous events and the reverence of successive generations, continues to enrich the historical and religious tapestry of England. King Edward the Martyr's story is a compelling chapter in the nation's history, a reminder of the intricate interplay between power, faith, family, and legacy.